In this video I will show you how to make a gate with a wicket. I plan to make the gate from corrugated metal and square profile. Something like that. The height of the gate and the wicket will be 2 meters. First of all, it is necessary to dismantle the old gate and wicket and concrete. The post profiles. The post profiles are 80 by 80 millimeters in size with a wall thickness of 3 millimeters. Their length is up 3 meters. Now we remove the old wicket and dismantle the support pipe. And with the help of a jack, we will pull out this post. And now the post is dismantled. It's good that it was without concrete. We had to pull it out and drill a hole for the post profile near the gate. And proceed to dismantle the gates. To facilitate breaking the concrete from the concreted post, you can use a regular perforator. Now we need to level the posts relative to the ground level. The height from the ground level should be 2 meters 30 centimeters. At the moment, the height of the pipe above ground level needs to be 2 centimeters. Make a sand cement cushion and raise it higher. I have such a batch of mortar. It will be useful for filling from below to prevent the post from rusting. To reach the required height, 12 centimeters of packed cement needs to be added. And we set the post level. We stretch a rope and set all the posts to the same level. For preliminary fixation of the post, it is necessary to place wooden wedges or bricks so that it does not shift anywhere, and set it level. In order to determine the position of the square relative to the gate, I use one profile as a ruler of the level, which we rest against 2 posts and align them to the axis. We level the second post relative to the first. After installing 2 posts, it's easy to set up the third one, which should be in line with them. There will be a post here, and the width of the gate is 95 centimeters, as we have a narrow yard. After leveling the posts, we proceed to concrete them. I will make concrete of grade M300. I have cement 550, the strongest, with proportions slightly less than for 400. The proportion is 10 liters of cement, 22 liters of sand, 37 liters of gravel. Our concrete mixer is not very large, so we divide everything by 2 and get these figures to obtain liters of solution. Now, the concrete mix is ready and can be unloaded. We used twice as much water as we planned. And once again, we check the vertical alignment of the post from both sides. And now we can proceed to the installation of the gate. To start, it is necessary to secure a 20 by 40 profile at the bottom of the gate. Profile 20 by 40, strictly horizontal. The distance from the ground level to the gate will be 15 centimeters in my case. It is important to ensure that the gate does not scrape the ground. When opening, the distance should not be too large to prevent too many dogs and cats from getting under the gate into your yard. With the help of spacers, I aligned it. The profile is strictly horizontal, and it needs to be tack welded at the corners. Now we take 3mm spacers, inserts and clamps, and begin to install the vertical edge profiles. We tack them to the side, where the curtains will be located. This profile. And it remains to tack the upper profile at the corners. It is strictly horizontal. I have already checked it with a level. Now we find the center of the gate and weld two profiles with a gap of 6mm. To set the exact gap between the two parts of the gate, I use the same metal shims 3mm thick from the tubing. This is how the second profile is fixed of the gate, and it is necessary to weld these joints with flexible welding. And we fix the lower crossbar on the gate. The distance from the bottom of the gate to the crossbar is 50 centimeters, 1/4 of the gate's height. This is how it will look. I haven't welded it yet, just tacked it. The same part. The crossbar will be on the second half of the gate and on the wicket gate. Now it is necessary to weld 16 square around the perimeter. This square will provide additional rigidity for the support of the corrugated sheet. The structure and the gate will not deform for preliminary fixation. I will use these clamps. We tack with small points at please 10 cm intervals. When the framework around the perimeter of the gate for the corrugated sheet is ready, it is necessary to perform vertical framework across the entire area of the gate. We have a T7 profile, and the distance between the waves is in millimeters. It is necessary to perform on the workpiece. We use a caliper for better accuracy to mark with a step of centimeters. The same marking needs to be done on the upper part. Now we measure the distance between the upper and lower profiles with a tape measure and cut the vertical profiles to length. Centimeters. My profile is square with a wall thickness of 2 millimeters. And has a size of 18 by 18 millimeters. first vertical profile is set, the distance between them is exactly 10 centimeters. And you can weld strictly at 10 centimeters. The distance between the centers equals the width of the wave. Centimeters. I didn't weld all the vertical partitions because it takes too long, so I welded them only from the inside. The appearance turns out to be neater. Here you can see the minimal gap, no overflow. Unlike the first strips, which will need to be evened out. The weld seams will need to be slightly ground down because the corrugated sheet will be in contact here, and it needs to fit tightly to the framework. So we take a grinding wheel and start smoothing the seams. All vertical crossbars are welded. There will also be crossbars at the bottom here. But first we will weld the hinges to ensure that the gates stand straight, do not skew in the center, and we can continue working. The hinges are 13 centimeters long and have a diameter of 2 centimeters and 3 millimeters. Inside there's a small bolt to make opening easier. The gates didn't jam. We will weld them. The gates will be heavy, so when welding the hinges it is necessary to use plates with a thickness of 3 millimeters. The height for welding the plates will be 25 centimeters from the top and bottom. And with the help of a level, we will align the line. At the upper level of the hinge, we weld the plate according to the width of the gates. In the second piece, we weld slightly lower. The weld didn't turn out very nice, so we'll smooth it out with a grinder. Here, one hinge is secured and finished. Let's move on to the lower hinge, which will also be attached 25 centimeters from the bottom of the gate. Here's the second hinge ready. Already finished? Nothing extra is sticking out. Everything is securely welded. The hinges are welded on 4 pieces and we can proceed to trimming the welded spots that secured the gates. And now we can cut the 2 halves of the gate. And after that, the gates can be opened. They open without creaking. and without sagging. The gap is even. There will also be a false panel here, so it's not a problem. On top I made it, temporarily, a stabilizer for the post to prevent the gate from sagging. And later there will be a carport truss there. Next I will make a bolt for the gates. For this I am using a solid square measuring 15 by 15 millimeters. And a pipe, a square profile measuring 20 by 20 millimeters. On one side of the gate we will weld a longer square, and on the other side 2 shorter ones. Between them a handle like this will be welded. Here it is now welded. Now it is necessary to weld a piece of square profile on one side and on the other, considering the entry of the latch so that the strip is enough to close. And we very carefully weld a handle like this to the latch in a strictly defined place at a right angle. Here, the T-shaped latch is made. Now it is necessary to weld the second piece of profile so that the latch moves freely and does not fall out. Now the latch is ready and easily opens and closes when necessary. The next stops will be at the bottom as well, but that will be later, when we weld the lower part. In the next stage, we will proceed to the installation of the gate. It will have the same design as the gates. We mark the horizontal with a level. We place 3 millimeter spacers and fix the vertical post with a clamp. Tack the corners with spot welding. We make 2 tacks at the front, at the top and bottom. For the gate latch, I will use 2 spacers of 3 millimeters each. A size of 6 millimeters is enough to compensate for thermal expansion. And we tack the upper part. Now we will weld the lower horizontal strip onto the gate, just like on the doors. In the next step, we will make the gate's framework, just like the doors. And in the next step we will weld the hinges onto the gate. Now the hinges are mounted and we can untie the gate, freeing it from the posts. And we open the gate. And we will start making the same framework as above, on the doors and the gate. Now it is necessary to attach the body closing metal strip to the gate and the doors. I have already secured it with clamps about 2 centimeters overlap onto the gate. Now it just needs to be welded. We will weld it with small tacks on the outside and on the inner corner. Now the closing strip is welded and the door closes tightly. There are no gaps. The lower lattice is ready, and we can proceed to install the latch on the gate. I bought such a latch, but it doesn't fit in terms of width. Therefore I will remove the bolt and replace the main part using 2 pieces of square profile. The factory bolt is not rusted, neatly made, and fits well into the profile. With dimensions 17 by 17 meter. We tack square profile on one side along the edge of the gate. And at such a distance on the second side. Now we mark the place on the post for the bolt position and make a hole in it. I will drill with a drill bit of diameter 10 millimeters. Using a jigsaw with a metal blade, we turn the round hole into a square one. And we even out the hole with a square file. Now let's check the lock operation and the alignment of the bolt hole. Everything closes perfectly. In the next step, we need to make the lower bolt gate. For this, I will use a rod with a diameter of 1 centimeter and make L-shaped Haas levers. They could be bent, but I find it more convenient to weld them, as the angle will then be exactly 90 degrees. Here is the bolt we made. We'll make another one just like it, and then clean everything well from rust. I've cleaned the bolts from rust using a sanding disc. Now they need to be slightly sharpened so that they fit better into their corresponding places on the ground. I will be sharpening them also with a sanding disc using an angle grinder. Such an angle of sharpening will be quite sufficient for proper fixation. The bolt in its place. And now we will weld 2 square profiles, each 300 centimeters long and measuring 20 by 20 millimeters. Here, 1 bolt is ready. And we place it in the pipe. The fixation has occurred. And we weld the fastener, inserting the gate. Here we have such gate latch fasteners. And in the next step, we will weld decorative forging to the main part of the gate and the wicket. We find the center clamp, the forging with clamps. And we weld at the points where the forging touches the vertical strips of the gate and the wicket. For proper fixation of the forging at the center of the gate, it is necessary to find the middle and use a level to draw a precise horizontal line. And to secure the forging with clamps. And we weld the forging from the inside. The gates have this appearance as they are not yet painted, so their appearance is not very attractive. The forging is welded. I will not do forging at the top because there will be a carport, and the distance between the carport and the gates is only 20 centimeters. The gates are almost ready. All that's left is to paint them and attach around the perimeter. The corrugated sheet, for this I use a 3-component paint because the paint needs to be durable and of high quality. You can use any paint, mine will be black and glossy. 3-component. It contains approximately rust, primer, and the paint itself. Open the paint and mix it well. Separation of the paint is unacceptable because all components must be together. Pour the paint into a small container and start working. In the next step, we will start cladding the gates and the wicket with corrugated metal. The corrugated metal has dimensions of 1 meter 20 by 2 meters. The wave height is meters. We will cut using a thin disc. Swept up. I will attach it to each wave and to the center of the profile to the vertical posts. The standard width of the profile sheet was not enough, so a whole sheet of profile sheet and an additional piece of 35 centimeters were used. And now it remains to secure the last piece of the lower part. The lock goes one after another so that this outer part presses the arch, leaving no gap. Now, the gates are clad, and we will proceed to cladding the wicket gate. We attach the last lower part of the profile, and the wicket gate is ready. This is how beautiful it turned out. The complexity of gates and a wicket gate. Here later on we'll touch up with yellow color, flowers, with silver or gold, we'll see. And so everything is ready, only the lock needs to be installed with the handle and lock. And the work will be finished. In the next stage we will be installing the lock in the wicket gate. I have a standard type lock with a cylinder. The cylinder has a latch on the inside and a lock on the outside. The handles are very ordinary black. Spring loaded. At a distance of 1 meter from the bottom level of the gate, I left space for the lock. The lock will be in this place. And we are marking it out. I will cut out one part of the 40 by 20 profile because it cannot be cut otherwise. Due to the thickness, we will place a plate on top. The thickness of the lock is 80 millimeters. It is necessary to make a cutout in the profile of this width to protect the profile's coating from damage. When working with the grinder, I use masking tape. And we cut out a piece of the profile for the lock. And we remove the piece of the profile. We measure the lock. It fits freely. And we clean up the lock's seating area using a grinding disc on a sander. Now the lock fits very tight and with a small gap, and after this we weld the plate into place. We fit the lock into its place. Everything fits perfectly. Now it is necessary to drill a hole in this plate for the square and for the cylinder. The lock. We place the lock against the plate and mark it. Here are the holes in the profile and in the plate. One is ready. Here are the holes, ready for the square and the cylinder, and we'll check how they fit. Everything fits perfectly, so we can continue working. We paint the welded strip and wait for the paint to dry. Now we can remove the masking tape from the corrugated sheet. The lock has settled into its place. The holes in the plate are cut precisely to the size of the square and the cylinder of the lock. Using galvanized self-tapping screws with a concealed head, we fasten the lock in place. Insert it into the core in its place and screw it in with a bolt and attach the handle with the same stainless self-tapping screws. Now the lock is installed and the cover. Let's check the lock's operation. The handle presses without effort, so it works perfectly. But there's a problem on the outside. There's nowhere to secure the handle. Securing the lock handle, I use such a frame which I will weld to the guides, and it will be secured to them with 4 bolts. The handle, now we need to carefully paint this frame and attach the handle here. And screw the handle into place. Now the handle is in place. In the next step, we need to secure the lock strike plate. It looks like this. Mark the edges of the block on the post with a simple pencil. Now we place the locking plate against it and mark the attachment points. And screw the plate into place. Now outline the holes inside, and we will cut them out of the posts. Drill a hole matching the diameter of the saw blade. And start cutting it with a jigsaw using a small metal blade. Slightly round it off with a small router, the upper and lower edges. Check the lock's operation. It closes and opens smoothly and efficiently without any problems or sticking. I just need to paint the flowers on the button to make it look nicer. I'm really using this gold acrylic lacquer. We ended up with these cute gold flowers in the center of the wrought iron. And finally, our gate with the door is ready.